My name is Jane Gordon. I am a jewelry designer and life designer, and I'm going to teach you how to string pearls. How many people here have pearls already? Pretty much, not you, sir. You're the only one. Pearls? How many people restring them every 1 or 2 years? Okay. Bad passengers. Bad. How many restring their pearls never, or until they break? Okay. A lot of people tell me that they don't restring their pearls, or they only restring them when they break. Your pearls are strung on white silk. One of the things people say to me often is, well, I only wear them once or twice a year. I don't really need to restring them. Imagine you have a white silk shirt and you wear it once or twice a year and you don't clean it and you put it back in the closet without cleaning it for a year, 5 years, 10 years, and the skin cells that slough off and the bacteria that gets in every time you perspire and then it grows in the silk threads. You imagine what the cuffs and the collar would look like of your shirt. That's what's going on in the thread inside your pearls. So even if you aren't wearing it, you should be restringing it just because it's sanitary. But also, a couple of years, years before I was in the jewelry business, I was wearing my mother's pearls in a taxi cab and they broke and I didn't exactly know how, and I thought I had retrieved all the segments, and when I had it restrung and brought it back to my mother, she couldn't fit it around her neck. And I didn't really understand how that happened until a couple of years ago. I had a necklace in my collection that just looked tired. No one had ever worn it. And I cut it apart for restringing, and as I was cutting it, it was falling apart in my hands. So for cleanliness, for safety, and just to freshen it up, restring your necklaces every year or two. Now, once you learn how to do it, it cost, I Googled pearl restringing, and it seems to cost about $100 a strand. Some people can get it cheaper. I met one woman that got charged $475 because they told her that since she had really big pearls, it was more expensive. It takes like 15 minutes to do the big pearls, max. I told her I'd do it for $474. Anyway, so you can buy new pearls. If you want to buy the least expensive ones, you can buy pearls and a clasp and have a gift for somebody, and it's still going to cost you less than one restringing. The second or third times you restring, you're really going to feel silly if you don't do it. On top of that, it opens up your creativity. Imagine I could put a blank canvas and a palette of paints and hand you a paintbrush, and right from your very first painting, you wouldn't have to worry about years of learning and practicing and technique. If you just found, wow, I magically can paint anything that's in my head. This technique I'm going to teach you is so easy that this is what's going to happen. It's going to take you the first couple of knots. You're going to fumble around with the thread a little bit. The worst problem people have is not tangling up the thread. As soon as you get the hang of that, which is very quick, it's so easy. And I'm going to show you now how easy, in case you don't believe me. This is what you need for stringing. You need some thread. I'll get into the types later. Needles. This is called a flex needle. It's actually a little piece of twisted wire with a very big eye that makes it very easy to thread, but as soon as it goes through the first pearl, the eye squishes down. This is so soft, you can see I'm poking myself in the face with it. It's just a very soft little piece of wire. You need, this is called French wire. I don't know why. I don't think it's French and I don't think it's wire. And I'll show you what this is for. This is going to be used at the beginning and end of the strand. And of course you need pearls, and you'll need a clasp and a ring. Clippers. I have this very high-tech glue that you might like to use. It's clear nail polish. This one actually is a little bit orangey because I did my toes with it and I forgot to buy a new bottle. And the first thing we're going to do is measure approximately 4 times the length of the strand you want to string, and then plus a little bit, and you'll see why. This is also a thing you need glasses if you're me. Now, what happened was the classic technique of stringing pearls takes years to learn. And from doing that, I didn't like doing it for a couple reasons. I was always leaning over my beadboard, my neck and back were aching. When I started this business, I was working all the time. I started with $32 in trashed credit, and I would just make something at night, try and sell it during the day. I didn't have time to be unemployed. I call it Earn As You Learn program. So I didn't like that classic technique where you put a pearl on the thread, and then you take these kind of tweezers and you work the knot down to the pearl. Then you put the next pearl and you work the knot down. Have you tried that? That was it's hard, isn't it? I strung a 48-inch lariat and had 1/8 of an inch somewhere in the center that didn't look good, and you know, it'll ruin the whole look. You have to cut the whole thing apart, take all each little thread out from inside the pearls, and you have to start over. It's really, you don't want to do it that way. So from sitting up nights, stringing and restringing, I developed this technique. And my jewelry, if you come and see my jewelry in the shop later, the cast metal pieces, it's filled with symbolism and metaphor, and it's all about happiness. So when I was on the ships, I thought, well, maybe I'll teach people to string pearls. There's something about decorating our bodies that's intrinsically exciting. If you think about it, every people in the world, all over time and history and every corner of the planet, they decorate their bodies. People run naked in the jungle with body decorations on. So I thought, if my whole passion in my art is about sharing happiness, maybe it doesn't have to be with words and metaphor. Maybe it'll just help women decorate themselves. And what I'm going to do is not only teach you a technique of stringing pearls, but help you really get in touch with your creativity and a way of expressing yourself. People think of pearls, sometimes people say, well, I don't want to buy pearls because I already have a strand of pearls. But I never heard anybody say, I don't want a gold necklace because I already have a gold necklace. Because people already imagine that gold can look a lot of different ways. Pearls can look a lot of different ways. You can have your strand of pearls, and once you know how easy it is to restring them, you might have a new red dress, and you can go buy yourself a ruby bead or briolet or something, restring it to match the red dress. When you get bored of that, you can restring it some other way, or just pick up some other pearls. You can buy pearls for a few dollars, and you can buy pearls for hundreds of thousands of dollars. It doesn't even have to be expensive. Now, I'm going to be teaching you in the shop, I'm going to teach you how to recognize all the different qualities, so you never have to be confused about why this one's $500, that one's $5, that one's $50,000. I'm going to put the pearls in your hands and show you how to do that. Boy, this is hard to do in the dark. I'm almost just feeling the pearl, believe it or not. Does anybody feel insecure about whether or not they're going to be able to do this? Okay, let me tell you, I taught a lady who had glaucoma. She was going in for cataract surgery the day after the cruise. And one girl came to me and she said she desperately wanted to learn, and she kept taking classes in her local bead shop, and they told her she was unteachable. She wasn't unteachable. In fact, I think that's terrible. Anybody that wants to learn is teachable. It was really easy to teach her. My technique is really easy, and I've taught so many people, I'm actually getting pretty good at spotting where people are going to fumble. And all she was doing wrong was rushing. If you try and go really fast, it's going to take you longer. You just go smoothly, and it'll move right along. I taught a woman with Parkinson's. Her hands were shaking so bad, but my proudest, and I'm not proud of me, I'm proud of the student, a woman came to me on a ship with one arm, and she said, can you teach me how to string pearls? And I'm looking at her one arm, and I said, well, I'll try. And sure enough, you know, the first thing, I was really busy with some other people, and I was showing them how to do it, and I said, here's your first challenge, thread the needle. And then I went away, and I came back, and she had the needle threaded. And she learned really quickly because she just thought about it, and she used that plastic hand. It didn't even have fingers that bent or anything. So if she can learn, any of you guys can learn. You just have to want to, and my technique is really easy. So now I'm going to show you how easy it is. What you do, I'm only going to make a little short strand. You put more or less the whole strand on the necklace and on the thread. And see. Okay, you're right. Let me back up. As I said, you measure out the thread 4 times the length, and then you cut it, and you thread the needle, double it, and tie a big old ugly knot. You're going to cut this off and throw it away, so you just want something so the pearls don't fall off the end. Then we're going to put the whole strand on this thread, and you can put the whole strand, and you can leave 3 or 4 off at the end. Sometimes, especially with everybody on ships, I have them put the whole strand because you might be going back and forth to your cabin and moving around, and we don't want to lose those last 3 or 4. Or if you've got a centerpiece and you're trying to balance a design, you might just want them there so you can hold it up and measure it. In the end, we're going to cut the last few off and we're going to put them on again, and I'll show you why. So you've got these on. Now you've got your whole necklace there, and we're going to measure to the center of the thread. Now, this is only a little short segment of pearls, but when you've got a whole necklace, first thing people call is they want to know, oh, I can't remember where the center of the thread. It's not the center of the empty thread. It's the center all the way down at the bottom. Now I've got the clasp, the French wire, and the first pearl. I bring everything to the center. I bring up the first pearl, the French wire and the clasp are here. Every time I reach down, I smooth out the thread, and all we do is go back through the first pearl. Again, light. I promise this is so much easier when you're not on a dark ship and it's moving, unless your apartment rocks. And I'm just going to pull this into place. The French wire has wrapped around the clasp. It's a very elegant appearing finish because it looks like you soldered a little ring into the pearl, but it's just like a tiny, tiny slinky that wraps around the clasp. And now this is how easy the knot is. You're just holding the 2 sides of the thread, and you just tie a regular knot like you're tying a shoe. You let the weight of the pearl straighten it out for you, and you just tie the knot. And it's that easy. It's just a question of learning how to do it. Just 1 knot. Sometimes people ask me about double knots. They're completely unnecessary. I don't think the knots sit as nicely when they're double. If you have the right size thread. If you don't have the right size thread, or sometimes, especially less expensive pearls are usually drilled a lot bigger than some of the other ones. So sometimes the holes might be too big, and then you can do a double knot. Or I will teach you how to do a surgeon's knot. And that's a slightly easier way of doing the knot. It's quicker, and it sits nicer on the pearl. Any questions? How do I? Oh, okay. That's a good question. She asked me, how do I know how snug to put the pearl on? I just give it a little tug. It's really just a visual. I know a lot of people get their pearls back from the stringer and they're all kinked up, and you got to smooth them out a little bit. I don't really think that's necessary. I just give this a little tug when I tie it here, and then I'll double check it, make sure it's all going smoothly. You don't want to pull it so tight you break it, but that's not as easy as you'd think. Silk thread's pretty strong when it's fresh and new. Any other questions? Okay, good question. She wants to know, where do you get the thread and the needle? Findings is anything in jewelry that isn't the actual jewelry. So what you do is Google findings on the internet, and lots of places will come up. If you have local bead shops, I think there's a place called Michael's people keep asking me about. I've never been there. I'm assuming they have everything. Pardon?
It's cheap.
Cheap, inexpensive, or cheap quality? Oh. Hobby Lobby? I have pearl stringing instructions. If you take the class, I have pearl stringing instructions that I've printed up, and I also put a list of things you might use to get started. What size needles, what size thread, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So when I can give you that. And I also list the place, one place that I get most of my things, although now that I'm traveling, I get things everywhere.
Tell the age of thread when you buy a thread.
That's an interesting observation. She asked if you can tell the age of the thread when you buy it. Hopefully the people selling thread are selling enough of it that it's not getting old and moldy. I never thought of that before. I guess at some point you have to take a leap of faith. I don't think thread comes with an expiration date the way fish does.
What do you do with the thread alcohol?
I'm going to use that to close the knot at the very end.
I guess I wasn't watching closely enough, but when you found the center of your thread and you attached the French wire, like the earring,
No. It's not like an earring French wire. This is French wire. It comes in a little bag. You cut it in little pieces. It's a tiny, tiny little slinky. Remember the toy slinky? And what you're doing is you're putting the needle through the French wire. And so when the French wire, when your thread wraps around the clasp, the French wire wraps around and it protects the thread from getting dirty and breaking at that point where it's most vulnerable, where it rubs against the clasp. Did someone else have a question? You know, that is the funniest thing. Every time somebody asks me whether or not I can use dental floss, and I don't see why not. I've never used it. I don't know how it would sit. A quick word about the types of thread that are available. I use silk thread because it sits nicely. It's the classic thing that you use on pearls, and it's very strong. It does break from time.
Could you put your chair a little bit so that we can see your...
My hands? Oh yeah, I'll stand up.
Can we stand over?
You can, well, we're filming this and it's going to be on TV, and you can also come to the shop every C day at 10 and 3. I will teach an overview about pearls. I can give you a verbal overview now, and I can explain to you all the different types and where they come from and how to recognize quality. But I need to break you down into smaller groups and put the pearls in your hand and show you exactly what you're looking for when I describe size, shape, roundness, luster, surface area. If you give me about half an hour, 45 minutes up in the shop, I will teach you to recognize the different pearl qualities. I was going to give you a quick rundown on the types of thread in case I forget later. Silk thread sits beautifully. It will break after a few years. Synthetic thread won't break as easily, but it stretches more quickly, so it doesn't look so good much quicker. There's a high-tech wire you can use, which is good to use if you have gemstone beads, because although it's nicer to see the gemstone, the way it sits with the silk, the gemstone sometimes cuts the thread. If you know how to do it, you can string it and restring it when it breaks. It's not that big of a deal. And that's what I used to do, but then I realized my customers don't know how to restring. So when I had someone that kept sending me back every month one necklace, and I kept restringing it and sending it back to her, I realized I wasn't doing her any favors being a perfectionist or a purist, and I switched to the high-tech wire when I use gemstones. Pardon? Oh, in the shop? 10 and 3 every C day. I will be available. And then what we're going to do is I'll lay out all the pearls. I'll teach you about the qualities and the types. That takes 45 minutes to an hour. I've been having so much fun doing these classes and watching how much fun everybody else has. And I've been picking up more and more things. I have a huge variety of pearls for you to choose from. I just restocked because I almost sold out on the last ship. I have lots of gemstone beads, lots of clasps, centerpieces. I will show you how to make centerpieces, how to make earrings. We can do bracelets if you like multi-strand. I have multi-strand clasps. I just have been really enjoying getting things together so you guys can have fun with your own creativity. Now I'm going to show you where we're up to. Now we're ready to close the strand. Remember I said I'm going to put the whole strand on except for a couple of pearls. On this last place, there's no knot. I'm going to go back and do that later. Now the reason I have to add the last few at the end is because if I just tried to put the clasp at the very end here, how would I do that? I can't, where would I tie the knot? So what I'm going to do is go through the last few pearls, through the clasp, and go back, and I'm going to hide the knot 3 pearls in. And when I say 3 pearls, I very specifically mean 1, 3, 5, 10, however many you happen to feel like using. I'm an artist, I'm not a mathematician, so don't ever quote me on numbers. In fact, if we're talking numbers, you better double check. So we're putting the last several, and I'm going to use 2 now because I'm going to demonstrate 2 different kinds of knots. I'm putting the French wire, and now I'm going to go through the other side of the clasp. If you remember, in the beginning, we measured to the center, and we left a gap. Now we don't really want to leave a gap because we're closing this up. So what we're going to do is rest the pearls up against the strand, loose enough so that you can get the needle through and tie the knots. This might be a place where you realize you made it too short. You want to add 5 or 10 extra, or too long and you want to just add 1 or 2. But you're still going to need to go back and put a knot between every pearl on the way back. We're only going to have 2 here because how long do you want to sit and watch me do knots? So what I'm doing is putting this through the last pearl, and I'll show you, I show you different things to make it easier for you to do it. One thing that people always want to do for some reason is hold the clasp and pull the thread, and that'll make it difficult to get this into the right place. So I just hold the whole strand, pull the thread, and let the clasp move over. And now what I'm going to do is tie this thread around in between the first 2 pearls. And the way I do that is holding it in between my fingers, tie it around my fingers, and then get my fingers out of the way at the last minute. There's a knot in between those 2. You go through this way as many as you have until you get to the last spot. And then what you're going to find is, oh, hang on, see what happens when you hurry? It gets a tangle. Oh, I'm embarrassing myself. I'm embarrassing myself. There we go. If you do it, remember what I said about rushing? If you do it slow and steady, then when the thread is about to kink up, you can see it before it gets a tight knot. Jeez, this is embarrassing. And again, as I said, it's easier if you've got light. You're not standing, holding them up, and demonstrating. Okay, now I have the very beginning of the thread is right next to the very end of the thread. And this is really easy. Again, you just tie it like you're tying a shoe. And pull it tight. Tie it again. This is where I use the nail polish. What we have is one continuous length of thread going all the way through the pearls and all the way back. No cuts, no stops and starts. This is the one place it could conceivably come unraveled. So I'll put a little bit of nail polish on, which I'm not going to do now because we're cutting this apart. And then I rub it into the knot, make sure it's rubbed off of the pearls. And then you clip it, and clip it close enough so that you don't have too big of a tail sticking out, but not so close that you cut your whole strand in half. I tell that to people every time. And yet last month I cut my strand in half. And here we have, I'll pass this around so you guys can look at the French wire. And you can see what you're looking at is the 2 little gold loops at the end. Those are just the slinky thing that wrapped around. French wire comes in gold color and silver color, but it doesn't come in actual gold and silver. Any questions before I go to the next part?
And just like your name, website where you can get these things.
Oh, I get it at myrontoback.com, but you can Google anything. You can Google findings, and you can find places in your neighborhood, because it's nice to actually see and touch the places. If you can't find anything, you're welcome to call me out when I'm back in New York. I'm always happy to pick things up and start a care package for you and send it out. Oh, I have it all on my instructions, but that's a good question. He asked the gauge of the silk. For most things, I use size C thread. If I've got gemstones or really small pearls and the hole is too small, I use size B. If you're using beads, usually the holes are bigger than pearls. However, if you're using gemstone beads, rubies, emeralds, sapphires, tanzanite, they're sold by weight. So they want to drill them as tiny as possible so they can make it the heaviest possible. And they're really small. So for that we use B, and I usually keep D around in case I've got big holes. In the French wire, I use medium for most things. Sometimes you might have a tiny clasp and you might need small or extra small, but that's really just my choice. I know other people want the French wire to be the tiniest, thinnest French wire. They don't think it looks nice. I think it looks really elegant when you can see the little loop there at the end. Did you have a question? Were you about to ask something? No? Oh, you. Okay. I know. F, like I'm finding you very charming today. Yes, findings. She asked me if you need to sign up for my class, you just have to turn up. And I call it at 10 and 3 just to give people some kind of a structure. But you guys are on vacation and trying to get everybody to do something at the same time. It's like herding cats. So I'm just there, and 10 and 3 is when I'll do the presentation on the pearls. But once you start making things, you just come and go as you please. Yes, it's a two-part. The first part, I will lay out, I have trays and trays of pearls, which I will go through strands by strand to tell you what to look for, and not just tell you. I can put up a PowerPoint and put up all the different shapes, but I don't think you're really going to get a feeling of how to tell unless I put them in your hand and say, can you see where this is a little flat here? And you can see the differences. And as we go through the different types of pearls and the pearl qualities, it really gets you an understanding of it. I can describe in words all day long how to recognize plastic pearls from real pearls. And I can describe how to tell Tahitian pearls from dyed gray pearls. But you're not going to get it. I can describe all day long the difference in the taste between Coke and Dr. Pepper, but if I put them in 2 glasses, you still won't know the difference. All you have to do is taste it. And then you say, oh, I get it. That's how easy it's going to be once I explain to you. Then, okay, 45 minutes to an hour for that. Then the wild card is how long it's going to take everybody deciding what they want. And the more you start getting into it, and I have a lot of things to show you, it gets kind of exciting and you start getting inspired, and that's a wild card. I can't guarantee how long that takes. Then when a few people are ready, we sit down at the table and start stringing. And then once you guys start stringing and 1 or 2 of you get it, then when the next group comes, then you can teach each other, because if you help someone else learn, it's going to help you learn. And that's where you'll know if you miss something, and I'll always be there to, if something gets, confused. Does anyone want an overview of pearls? Oh, question. Yes, it does. Comes in all sorts of colors. Overview. Okay. Pearls traditionally, everyone knows where pearls come from. Some kind of piece of shell or sand floats inside of an oyster or some kind of a mollusk, and it squirts the nacre on the irritant, and this makes a pearl. I don't know if you realize the nacre is actually what the mollusk uses to grow himself, to grow his shell. He's constantly squirting nacre on the inside of the shell, creating a thicker shell that will spread out, spread out, spread out. That's how the shells grow. It's the same thing. That's why the inside of the shell is called mother of pearl, and it's the, you know, it's the inside, I guess, the mother of the actual pearl, you could say. So originally, pearls were found randomly in the ocean and very treasured and valued and expensive. And so, of course, a whole pearl diving industry existed, which is really interesting if you think about it. This is way before scuba gear and diving gear, and people had to be incredible athletes and hold their breath for, you know, 1, 2, 3 minutes, dive down, get something, you know, come back up. So you can understand how treasured and valuable they were. Also imagine before internet and telephones and air travel, how difficult it would be to match a whole strand of pearl for size, color, and shape and quality. So your grandmother's pearls were probably graduated because it would be easier for any individual merchant to match two and then keep bringing them up. Around 1900, Mikimoto started culturing pearls. He started farming pearls. And actually there was a big debate in the industry whether or not these were real pearls. And what were we going to call them? Were we going to call them synthetic pearls? Were they less valuable? Has anyone here ever had in vitro fertilization? Or does anyone know anyone that had in vitro? Who do you know that had that? Your daughter? Is your grandchild a synthetic person? Are you sure? 2 of them. And are they somehow less valuable than? Okay. So just as a test tube baby who is not born of a random night of drunken debauchery is not less valuable than the other baby, same thing with the cultured pearls. There is absolutely no premium to a pearl found randomly in the ocean. And the evidence of this is that the pearl diving industry does not exist anymore. If it were more valuable to have those random pearls, then there would be people looking for them. The only place I've ever heard someone talk about those, not in a store, not a pearl vendor, is when someone says, I found a pearl in my oyster in a restaurant, what should I do with it? Yeah, go to the dentist. So we're going to put that idea to rest. The problem is that when the industry was developing the terms, they used the term cultured pearl as opposed to a natural pearl. And I personally object to the word natural because it's confusing. It implies that the other pearls are unnatural. And just as your grandchildren are not unnatural humans, they're just this absolute same process. So we're going to put that idea, we're done with that. Okay, so we have Mikimoto farming pearls. The pearls your grandmother probably had, if they're little white pearls, were Japanese. Along come the Chinese, and they start making pearls which originally looked like Rice Krispies. They're called freshwater pearls, or sweetwater as Europeans call them. And everyone liked them. It was a new, different look, and it still had the beautiful luster that pearls are so flattering against the skin. People kind of thought, well, the Chinese can make these funny things, but they can't really make round pearls. And then, of course, the Chinese make round pearls. And then people said the Chinese can't make round, shiny pearls. Now they make round, shiny pearls. Even 12 years ago, 11, 10 years ago, when I first came into the industry, people were telling me the Chinese can't make big, round, shiny pearls. Well, guess what? Now they make big, round, shiny pearls. The freshwater pearls are much less expensive for a couple of reasons. The most expensive pearls are the South Sea pearls, and then the Tahitian. They can grow 1 pearl per mollusk. In the Japanese pearls, they can grow about 5 to 7 per mollusk. The Chinese can grow about 50. Not only are they growing 50 pearls per mollusk, but they're growing them faster. What maybe a Japanese takes 7 years to grow, the Chinese can grow in 3 years, and sometimes, 1.5 years. They put a tiny shred of pearl material inside the pearl, and it's all nacre. And if you ever made a rubber band ball, when you first get that bunch of rubber bands you don't know what to do with, and you roll it into a ball, you can make it bigger very quickly. As the surface area gets bigger and bigger, it's harder and harder to double the size. So if you're starting with a larger bead, which is what the Japanese do, it takes a lot longer for the oyster to cover that bead with the nacre. So you've got more, faster, hardier, and really fun shapes. Now, because we're going to be creative and we're going to have fun with design, we're going to forget about better and best. I am going to teach you what gives pearls their cost, but we're not going to call them better or worse or best. The most expensive pearl is a deep, deep golden, very large, perfectly round South Sea pearl. And if someone gave me a strand, I would be very happy and I would try to sell them, but I wouldn't wear them. I look terrible in yellow. So it might be the best, but it's not the best for me. If you have money to spare and you love pearls and you really come to appreciate the perfection of a perfectly round, perfectly clean surface area, go indulge yourself $5,000 or $10,000 or $15,000 for a perfect strand of pearls. It's sort of like if you see two women wearing a black suit and a white silk shirt, and one of them maybe shopped at Ann Taylor, she can look lovely and her outfit fits her really nicely. The woman wearing the Chanel suit, you don't know how many inches, how many stitches per inch the seam has, and you don't know how far the seams are turned out, that the fabric's cut on the bias, that the lining isn't glued in. You don't know any of these things, but you know that woman looks really elegant. So it's the same thing with pearls. You can get a very inexpensive strand of pearls and have a great look and look beautiful in them. If you're giving a gift to a daughter, granddaughter, whoever's watching your plants and taking care of your dog, it's a wonderful gift to give. If you can afford it, treat yourself to the Chanel. If you have a kid going into college and you don't know how you're going to pay for it, do not buy expensive pearls. That's just silly. So you have to figure out what's good for you, what's important to you. The analogies I always use are wine and handbags. I love Chateau Margaux, and I will never go out and find the money to buy a bottle of Chateau Margaux for myself. I'll only drink it if someone puts it in front of me. However, I'm not really in a designer handbag budget all the time, but it's important to me. That's what I'm touching every day, and I want to have a beautiful handbag. I don't want a cheap handbag. So I'll find the money and I'll just keep it longer. It's just what's important to you. The different shapes that we're going to be looking at, and this is where I really have to show you, we're going to look at button pearls, which are a little bit flat on one side. We're going to look at egg-shaped, potato pearls, Baroque pearls, round, oval. We're going to look at all these different shapes. I have shapes that are so unusual that people ask me, are those pearls? You can see the necklace and earrings I'm wearing, just these jumbo crazy shaped pearls. Each one is a work of art. If you want to learn how to work with these, I can show you, as I said, how to make a pendant, wire wrapping, earrings. We can really get creative. You just have to think what you want to make, and I'll show you how to do it. We might even have a whole earring night. We did that on the last ship. Any more questions?
How do you store grandma's pearls?
That's a good question. How do you store pearls? People talk about not putting pearls in plastic. It's not as if the plastic is going to instantly make the pearls dissolve or explode. I travel with my pearls in plastic. My pearl vendor sends me pearls in plastic. It's very convenient. Don't store your pearls in plastic. If you're not going to wear them often, don't wrap them up in an airtight thing and stick them in the safe and forget about them. Pearls are, I think it's the only jewelry most people wear that was alive at one point, and it needs to be near a living body. The oils in your skin are really good for pearls. It should be the last thing you put on in the morning and the first thing you take off at night. Do not spray your hairspray or your perfume on the pearls. That will eat away the luster, and it can't be put back. And you just need new pearls, or give them to your granddaughter or something.
How do you recommend cleaning pearls?
Soft cloth. She asked how to clean pearls. I actually had some vintage pearls that I bought recently to take the clasp off. They were real kind of yellow and dingy looking, and I put them in a bowl with some, you know, ivory liquid, whatever I had by my kitchen sink, and all the nacre peeled right off. So I have them here actually. I spray painted them gold just to see what would happen. I don't think they look that good. So don't wash them with dishwashing liquid.
Can't you get those little jars that
I was just going to say there is a jar called Gentle Pearl Cleaner. I haven't found it necessary. I guess if you have really old pearls, you can do that, not every day, but before you're going to restring, maybe put it in the pearl cleaner and let it clean off, and then restring it so that the thread isn't compromised. I have not tried shampoo to clean my pearls. This bracelet, I've been wearing this bracelet more than 10 years. I do everything I tell you guys not to do. I don't restring it till it breaks, and, it bangs around. I wear it with my watch, so it's banging against something else that's metal and hard, and it looks fine. So the worst problem I have with it is that black threads from my sweater get twisted around. I don't think you really need to clean them. I think just wiping it with a cloth will do the trick, and wear them and love them.
I have pearl wearing, like it's keep rubbing, I wear it every day, and just wear it flat.
The pearl is worn flat?
Yeah.
Well, that just, no one will see it's on the inside. If it,
There's nothing you can do about it.
I've actually never heard that. I'd love to see it. Do you have it with you?
No, I don't.
Oh,
It's
can anyone see it, or is it just on the side where your skin is?
The neck is all gone.
I have never heard that. Oh, just the nacre is gone.
But it just pulls it flat.
Actually, if you take your grandmother's pearls and you hold them up and roll them, you'll see the seed winking at you. That's what it's called. They wink at you, where the nucleus of the pearl has worn through a little bit. And so I guess it's just like that, but it's just worn on the one side. You had a question?
Yes. When you are in your career for a period of time, how would you recommend?
Something that breathes, just a little pouch, felt wood or silk pouch, or just something that breathes, and don't tie it up real tight. I wouldn't put it in plastic if it's going to be for a long time. It's just unnecessary. What you can do, if you notice in the windows, if you go look at Mikimoto or any really good pearl store, every window where they display pearls, they have a little jar of water. Usually they'll put a little flower or a leaf or something. It's for the water to be in the air and keep the pearls moisturized. And it's nice. It's Christmas time, so you guys can come and learn some things. And instead of buying presents and handing it to people, you can give people things you made. The nicest thing I think that I hear people tell me is they go back and teach their grandchildren how to do it. And I've had a lot of men come by, and I can see they kind of want to do it, but they think it's not masculine. But you're not worried. A lot of guys come and they learn how to do it, so they have something they can teach their granddaughters. And I've had some men write to me and tell me how much fun it is having something that they really resonate with and a hobby they can do together. Any more questions? No more questions?
What's your pearl source?
Can I give you my pearl source? That's a good question. No one ever asked me that before. I can check with. I get pearls all over, but I do get from maybe 2 people more than 3 places. I get more than any other place. I get them all over from traveling. I'm not sure if 2 of them I don't think they sell to the public, and one of them does. And I'm happy to give you, but I'll check with the ones that don't sell to the public.